Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about the first power on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Los Angeles. All right, this is the Kill by Kill podcast. We're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. So we're going to break down all the goriest details of 1990s propaganda revenge plot slasher movie, The First Power, in the hopes that a cop's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust with my combo knife crucifix. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I just want to say that when I noted that I watched this on my Letterboxd account, I described it as, what if Cobra, but the killer has been dead the whole time? Right, and I stand by my assessment of this motion picture.
That's not a bad way to describe it. And when I started to kind of like put together research, there did seem to be a theme here, right? That this was a kind of horror movie that multiple people tried to make happen. And certainly Cobra is a big rung in that ladder. Now, it's not a strictly horror movie. It's horror tinged, and it pulls a bunch of punches when it comes to the horror stuff. I mean, you have a whole bunch of axe-wielding murderers who all gather together in a warehouse by fire pits. And not a single person is murdered with an axe, I think, in the entire thing, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, we got someone murdered by a van. I think we got a couple stabbings, but no axing, I don't think.
Yeah. So when I try to trace it back to what is the source code here? What are people trying to accomplish with this? And there's a logical source, and that the first film that I found that kind of uses this plot device of a killer who's murdered and then he comes back to exact his revenge after his execution is 1956's The Indestructible Man, which I don't know if you I saw this on MST3K.
I probably did.
Yeah, it's not memorable. It's not their best episode. It's not their worst episode, but the movie is almost competent. But then Cobra, I think, is much more of a Dirty Harry riff that could have gotten to this place, but it never decides to go there. It's decidedly earthbound for whatever reason. But I think so in the aftermath of Cobra, I think people are trying to take that and go, how do we amp up the horror element of this? So for me, I think this starts, and I could be wrong here, but this was my rough outline of how these movies came out, was 1987. There's a movie called Prison. It's notable for being the first American feature by the Strangers Chapter trilogy director Renny Harlin. He's directed other movies. But for me, his greatest achievement is elongating The Strangers into 3 separate movies for no one's benefit, and no one has ever cared. And in that movie, there's a whole bunch of people who are just starting out in the movie industry, and it's a big splash. I remember watching it when I worked in the video stores. Viggo Mortensen is the lead in it. So if you're hungry for young Viggo, that's a place to go. The exact same year, I think, is when, the next year, it continues with a movie we have covered on the show, Wes Craven's Shocker, which
and the almost identical The Horror Show.
Yes, which is just bizarre. This is just one of those things where, for whatever reason, everyone's got the same idea. And because none of these movies, with the exception of Shocker, have a major studio behind them, they're all just kind of doing it to do it. So The Horror Show, I think is mainly notable because it has the sweatiest Brian James performance of all time.
Which is saying a lot.
It really is. He's sweaty character actor, but in there, he is consistently moist. It's an achievement unto itself. Then we get to I missed one. The Lyle Alzado jackhammer horror movie Destroyer.
Oh my God.
Which I have flirted with watching, but have never actually viewed. I did not buy that Blu-ray when I had the chance when it came out from Shout Factory. So then now we have today's movie, The First Power. But wait, there's more. Because honestly, Gina, we covered an exact same movie just a couple weeks ago when we talked about body parts. It's the same but different.
And of course, the punchline to all this is a movie that came out several years later that has an almost identical plot to this, and yet it is done far much better and with better acting. It's creepier, and that is a movie called Fallen.
Yes, with Denzel Washington, which is I've only watched it once, and I was kind of like, okay. And watching it, I was like, obviously there's a lot better. It's the best version of this, but I wasn't really sure. I wasn't super convinced that it worked as a motion picture. I should probably revisit it.
I do like the running gag, if you will, of when these possessed individuals identify themselves by singing "Time Is on My Side."
Yeah, which, right.
It sounds stupid when I say it, but it's actually effectively creepy.
Which is repeated as a motif here with Buddy Boy.
Right, which is less creepy.
It is less creepy, but more folksome. But I'm not done because there's also 1986's Judge and Jury. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay. I think this is strictly notable because David Keith plays a costume-changing variation on Freddy Krueger, except not a child murderer. He just robs convenience stores. But for some reason, whenever he reappears to the main character, who's not a cop, that's the main difference there. Martin Cove, when he's trying to sweep his leg of his sanity, he appears as in various guises, including at one point with an orange mohawk in a clown costume as a woman. It just, every time he shows up, he's slightly Freddy Kruegerized for whatever reason. And speaking of, Wes Craven couldn't leave this idea alone because his last film, My Soul to Take, has this same plot point of someone who is executed for a crime and then returns later. So, and notably, Freddy Krueger is also kind of the same thing.
In terms of like appearing to, he's a Pennywise.
Yes, he's very much a Pennywise. And then when you combine that, I think, with what ultimately everyone's going for, which is a version of the Terminator, then you can add things like The Hidden into this.
Right.
Where it's just something you can't kill and keeps coming back and back.
Which is also the best version of these.
Yes, I agree. The First Power as a motion picture was in the script form was originally entitled Transit and took place in New York City. It was written and eventually directed by Robert Resnikoff, who had dabbled in all sorts of film and TV jobs, but had gotten this project off the ground with a short film called Jogger. He sold it to a producer by the name of David Madden, and Madden is a massive producer. He has worked consistently making huge movies, literally from 1989 on. His first production was Renegades, which stars one Lou Diamond Phillips in a kind of serviceable 48 Hours ripoff opposite Kiefer Sutherland in a fun mustache. Somehow
I remember that.
I do too. I saw it in the same movie theater that I saw The First Power, which was a second run theater that's on Colorado to this day in Pasadena. And I caught all sorts of lowly B-movie programmers there. And both of these things were like, I'm not going to do homework. What am I going to do? And I would go see something like Renegades or The First Power. Gina, I think we could honestly do a theme month of these types of movies. And we've actually covered half of them, and we could still fill a full month.
We're only just connecting the threads now.
Yeah, I mean, I own my soul to take on with 3D, so I'm itching to put that in the old Blu-ray player because, come on, I love a 3D movie that I already own.
Well, I had an interesting experience watching this because I was quite certain I had seen it before.
Oh.
And I realized that I don't think I had watched it before, not in its entirety. But there was a period between 1990 and 1992 where if you rented a horror movie, the trailer for this would be inevitably be running be run in front of it. Yeah. So I remember more like when he's chasing after them with the ceiling fan. How that ceiling fan is still operating, I have no idea.
It's impossible, but it's a very memorable shot.
I guess he's conducting electricity as well as possessing people.
Why not? Yeah. Add that to his power list because that's
that endless. And like the big leap over Lou Diamond Phillips through the church window. I was like, okay, I've seen that. Yeah. But it's because of the trailer, which I saw incessantly because I don't think this did very well in theaters. Yeah, it did
okay-ish.
But they were pushing it hard for home video.
Yes. There's a story that Lou Diamond Phillips likes to tell about this movie that for theatrically, they had this abstract version of Jeff Kober's face without him on the poster. And he goes, not to brag or anything, but if I had any big movie juice, it was at that moment. I had come off of 3 years of giant hits to the point where old student movies I had made in Texas before coming to Hollywood had been repackaged and put on video store shelves. And they're selling it on my face. So if you're going to sell a movie, you'll probably want to use my face. They don't. It only makes twice its production budget, which isn't bad. No one lost their shirt, but no one said we need a second Power.
Which we're never sure what that is. We're only told that the first Power is resurrection and you don't want to go there.
You don't want to go there. The second Power, we are eventually told, but over the course of multiple scenes. The first Power is resurrection. The second Power is psychic sight. So seeing the future or being able to read minds. The third Power is teleportation, which is how he's able to Jason Voorhees all over the Southland.
So he's like loaded for bear with powers then.
Yes, he is very overpowered. I think they needed to find one and stick with it, but they were having too much fun having him do just about anything. This was inspired, weirdly enough. The writer was inspired by the words of executed killer Gary Gilmore, who died by firing squad in Utah, who stated, quote, "You can kill me, but I'll just come back as someone else," which is an intriguing statement. But apparently every other screenwriter in Hollywood heard this. Because they're like, that's a movie idea, baby. And they didn't talk to each other and they all made the movie.
And then they were like, fuck.
Yeah. And just like weirdly enough, I think the one that made the most money was Fallen. Actor Jeff Kober, who plays the villain here, auditioned for the role along with half of Hollywood, according to him. And lead singer of INXS, Michael Hutchence.
Sure.
Who was looking to make his acting debut, apparently.
Well, but that's the first part where my Cobra comparison came into play. Sure. Because he's kind of a weird looking guy. Yes. At least I think they weirded him up because I've seen him in other things and he looked less weird.
You can power up that face, you could power it down, but here they are taking it at full face value.
And I think they're trying to do a little bit of a Brian Thompson thing with him, who's definitely a weird looking guy.
Yes.
So like, I it's not enough that he's, an incest baby and that he worships the devil. And it's like, well, let's make him weird looking too.
Yeah. So Kober has gone on to appear in countless movies and TV series and made a name for himself as a meditation teacher and practitioner, and noted that at the time, the reason he appears so uncomfortable in the role as Channing is because he was very uncomfortable with himself, and meditation was the only thing that brought him into being okay with being him. And I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. I'm glad that happened for him. Meanwhile, our female lead is played by Tracy Griffith, and she is the half sister of Melanie Griffith. They share a dad. Griffith had previously starred in the third sequel to Sleepaway Camp, a movie I barely remember beyond the bit where every character has the name of a Brat Pack member. And also in one movie that we have covered previously that I completely forgotten, the surprisingly fun Skeeter. That episode you can find on Patreon. We did it as a bonus episode, a listener request for Animal Attacks April a few years ago.
She had a moment. It did not last very long, though.
It didn't. But yeah, she's got a face, and she's not terrible here, but I don't know who would have been great. Her happy ending is that she ended up stepping away from acting after the 90s and became a sushi chef, which she has continued to do for quite a while and is very passionate about that. So she's got killer knife skills. As I mentioned before, the movie was made for about $10 million and would go on to earn about 22. And you were accurately noted, this was a much bigger hit on home video, because on that video box release, guess whose face takes over for Jeff Kober? Lou Diamond Phillips.
Well, the Wikipedia page for it describes it as a, quote, cult classic. I think that's being a little generous.
This is one of those movies where I know I'm not in the cult and has been described as one, and I've never seen evidence of cult, but wouldn't be surprised if it actually had it. Here's the other thing that I had to verify after it being written in Wikipedia. I'm like, this can't possibly be true, but it is. It had the kind of cult status that led post-NWA rapper Eazy-E to name it as his favorite film. And he dedicated an entire song to it entitled The First Power on a later solo album. So Eazy-E and the rest of the cult, I guess. So let's get into it. Jaina, as I mentioned, the first time I saw this movie was at a second run theater that is as close to sleazy as Pasadena has.
That feels right. That feels right for this.
And I remember at the time it opening with Celtic font and just leaning back in my chair. Oh, no.
You got that Stuart Copeland, the Police score, which sometimes works, other times does not.
Other times is mysteriously bad, just miraculously out of pace with the motion picture. And also, notably for a drummer who it has incredible rhythmic power, almost has a lack of rhythm to it, almost as if it's on purpose. But after a long reveal that the marks on screen will eventually become a pentagram, and a reveal for one credit that said wardrobe consultant, and I'm like, oh, no. That's also not a good sign. That is a sign that someone within the film was like, I'm not wearing that. And I'm going to guess that it's someone who has Diamond in his name, because throughout this movie, you seem to get a theme going with Lou Diamond Phillips costumes. And that is, well, this worked for Young Guns, and he is constantly drowning in various long overcoats, which are very unnecessary in Los Angeles.
I was going to ask, like this appears to be an oddly sunny serial killer thriller. Like when you think serial killer thriller, you think constantly, you think like Seven, where it's, it's always dusk, no matter like, what time of day it actually is, constantly pissing down rain. But here's bright and sunny Cali, baby. You expect to see like Anthony Kiedis in the background singing about wang-dang-doodle or whatever. But like, here's Lou in his trench coat mafia look. And it's like, you got to be boiling under that thing.
The person in me who constantly gets things wrong. And yet wang-dang-doodle was definitely a Steven Tyler thing.
I know every Red Hot Chili Peppers song post Blood Sugar Sex Magic just sounds like him saying wang dang.
You know what? Again, while you are wrong in text, you are not wrong in spirit or emotionally. Spiritually, you're 1,000% correct. And for all I know, because there are many, many, many Red Hot Chili Peppers albums that I did not participate in, it could have been wang-dang-doodle specifically having. I don't know. All right,
let me make a more accurate reference. Like maybe you expect to see Adam Levine in the background pointing to his shitty California stomach tattoo.
Oy. Buckle up, everyone. There's more Red Hot Chili Pepper references to come. Anyways, we open with a nun who is trying to convince three dudes that bad things are about to happen. Someone around town is killing people and carving pentagrams into them, and they are bound to gain the first power and become unstoppable. And there are two things that I thought of the entire scene. One, remember when people didn't want to end up on Geraldo? That's rare. I think we have a whole Geraldo generation running around who, if they had Geraldo available to them, would leap through the TV screen to get onto that fucking program.
Oh yeah. And these priests she's trying to convince her are in classic. Yeah, I know it was in the Bible, but that's nonsense.
Listen, the last thing this church needs is like more Satan talk. We have had it rough. Things have been going downhill from The Exorcist was the high, and then ever since the Amityville Horror, it's been going downhill, baby. But I was thrilled to see the Reanimator's David Gale in a brief cameo here. This movie is filled with that guy and that girl.
Oh yeah.
Now we meet Logan. He's a cop on the edge of his coffee table, which is filled with pizza and loose cats. He gets a phone call.
There's a lot of Cobra parallels.
There's so much Cobra in this, with the exception of like they can't afford a custom car.
No,
and I would say a good 50% less racist.
Oh well, that's true. Yes.
Yeah. But doesn't have nearly the amount of robot fashion shoots that you need in this kind of motion picture.
No.
Now, Logan gets a phone call from a woman. He does not know the identity of this person, but she is claiming to know where the pentagram killer will strike next. She points out, she indicates that it's the south entrance to Elysian Park, which is by Dodger Stadium. Cut to a stakeout happening with multiple undercover officers. The stakeout is happening in MacArthur Park. So I think that may be part of the problem with not catching this guy. They're in a completely different part of fucking town.
Yeah, but it does, in classic film fashion, as big as Los Angeles is, they can get anywhere. They can get from anywhere to another neighborhood in about 5 minutes.
Yes, and that will continue apace. Although this movie is very dedicated to its downtown LA locales, with the exception of one or two stunt shots that happen towards Sunset and Santa Monica. There's a lot of downtown LA here, but one of the cops complains that it's raining. He rolls over. Holy shit! It's Brian Libby from Silent Rage. All we're doing is talking about these movies, Gina. We are on an unintentional theme now for the last 6 months. So she also states in the deal over the phone to Logan that the pentagram killer cannot be shot and he cannot be given the death penalty. And he goes, sure, thumbs up. No intention of that happening.
Which he would not even have any power over the second aspect of that anyway.
Yes, that's very, very true. But it is a setup for the rest of the movie. Why would somebody ask that? We then see him and his partner, Oliver, played by Michael T. Williamson, driving around town, and they pass a Pioneer chicken. Gina, the sense memory I have of Pioneer chicken is so strong. This is a local Los Angeles chicken chain that rivaled Kentucky Fried Chicken for a very long time. Its batter was bright orange. It was the most delicious shit in the entire world. And there's only 2 locations left. And I keep threatening to drag my family to the one on Sunset. It's still there. That's the one they pass. Almost every other one is just gone from the face of the planet. But I was thrilled to see it. Anyways, they're stopped by, the main cops in charge, the lieutenants, the commanders, and they're like, listen, you've been doing this for 3 fucking nights. Nothing's been happening. And then lo and behold, over the radio, one of the cops named Carmen, she disappeared. She's not checking in. She's gone. And then they immediately take off for where they think she was. And lo and behold, they notate it as the south entrance of Elysian Park. Problem is, they end up in Griffith fucking Park, Gina. That's the old zoo on the Los Feliz side of Griffith Park. And I feel adamant that this is a mistake that only I care about, and yet I can't stop myself from writing about it, Gina. I refuse. The movie is all over the place, and not really in terms of plot, but in terms of the map. The undercover cop named Carmen manages to live through this ordeal with the pentagram killer. He takes off a mask, which is kind of an old man version of his face.
Yeah, it is. It's but it also sort of reminds me a little bit of the weird Stan Laurel mask in New Year's Evil.
Yes, it does. So, how many of these things are wrapping themselves into the same movie we've watched over and over and over again?
We've only ever watched one movie.
I think it's coming off that way. But this guy's name is Channing, we'll learn. He takes it off his face, he puts it onto hers, and then he goes for the bra. We never get that far because Logan's partner, Oliver, makes the loudest entry into this old zoo cave that you've ever heard in your life. And then it's pure fisticuffs as Oliver gets taken out and Logan gets knocked down, and it becomes a foot chase. There's just the foot chase is always with Logan behind Channing running for his life. And yet Logan never really stops shooting at him. He doesn't have a weapon that is a ranged weapon. He's shooting at this guy's back for 3 minutes straight.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. It feels like when they originally wrote the script that he was already dead, why are these bullets not doing anything?
Yeah. Although when you look at the aim that Lou Diamond Phillips is pulling off here, it also makes sense that he's not hitting. I don't think he could hit the broadside of a bar. It's pretty wild.
He's not a particularly convincing, hard bitten, doesn't play by the rules police detective here.
Yeah, he just has a little too much joy to him. There's a little too much light in his eyes.
Also, he's like 25.
Yeah, he's a child, and
this is supposed to be for a jaded man in his late 40s.
Yeah, but I think the producer's I just made a successful movie with this guy, And I think it doesn't matter. This guy's hot and I have an in and I can get him within his budget on this motion picture. And he does. And obviously it wasn't, aimed at Lou Diamond Phillips. The character's name is Logan. Like Lou Diamond Phillips is like, I have some Irish in me, but not enough to be named Logan. So they have a fist fight in a warehouse. I don't know where that warehouse is located. That's not a big warehouse part of town. But eventually, after being stabbed in the gut 3 times, Logan manages to knock out Channing right as the cops are there to pile on top of him. And they all notice that Logan's stabbed, and then flash forward the entire trial of the Pentagram Killer. Channing
who was executed about an hour after he's found guilty.
Justice does not move slowly within this movie's version of Los Angeles. Let's put it that way. But yeah, he's given the death penalty. Logan gets a call from the same woman we've heard before saying, "You promised," and now bad things are going to happen. She hangs up. Cut to the gas chamber. And I have to say, of all the executions that we have watched as part of this show, this was the most serene and non-eventful.
Yeah, because, like I said, he knows what's going to happen, so he's cool with it.
Yeah, this is what he wanted. Of course, part of that is it's a setup for a dream sequence in which he bashes through the window of the gas chamber and he can't be stopped by bullets or whatever. And then Lou Diamond Phillips wakes up sweaty in his own bed, naked from, the waist up, because that's what we paid to see. And then we get a cat scare after a dream scare.
Yep, we sure do.
That should be fucking illegal. Jail. There's a reason why the filmmaker here never made another major motion picture, or motion picture for that matter. It turns out that Carmen, that undercover cop, did not escape that terrible fate, as only a night later, someone with Channing's signature style has murdered her at the very same old zoo site in Griffith Park. So it didn't matter. Now was Channing not the Pentagram Killer? Did they catch the wrong guy? Who's to say? But this is where we meet Tess in the flesh. She is the psychic that helped Logan capture Channing in the first place. And she has bad news for him. Channing is back in Pog form. Oh my God. If you don't know that joke, look up The Simpsons. Anyways, always keep a Wikipedia page open because that will help you get our old man references. And this is when I began to notice a trend with Lou Diamond Phillips in this film. He's doing a lot of cigarette acting.
Oh yeah. Like I said, he's definitely trying for hard boiled and kind of coming off as a jammy egg.
Which isn't the worst taste sensation, but not necessarily what's been ordered up. So the cops then inform him that they have caught Carmen's killer, and it was this unhoused drug user. He was holding the murder weapon. He's covered in her blood. It's a pretty open and shut case. And as he's cigarette acting next to this other guy in a jail cell, that's when he hears from behind him, "Buddy boy." And he turns around and he's all spooked. "What'd you say to me?" to the wrong guy. Now, it's all in your head. But that is part of the power set, is that when if he's not in a physical body, he can play mind games with you. But when he is in a physical body, he can also play mind games with you.
And he can just, he's like basically doing parkour.
Yes, he is. He's able to float. He's able to, gravity doesn't matter.
Roundhouse kick you.
Yes. I started counting the amount of times Lou Diamond Phillips was kicked in the balls, and it is at least 4.
Yeah, so he gets injured so many times. I'm not entirely sure he hasn't been dead the whole time.
It's very true. Maybe they're just in purgatory. This entire movie is taking place in purgatory. But this is enough for Lou Diamond Phillips to start to wonder, all right, there's only two people who kind of knew all about the pentagram killer before he was captured. One was Channing himself, and the other one was the person on my phone. And now I know this is Tess. So let's go to her house and talk to her. So they show up at her address, and God damn it, Gina, it's the fucking Stall house. You have seen this in movies before. It's also known as the Case Study House number 22. This house is so famous, it has its own fucking Wikipedia page.
I was going to say, they really don't explain. Like, somebody like remarks upon, it's like, wow, being a psychic must pay good. Yeah, I guess it fucking does.
Yeah,
but there's just no explanation as to how she manages to afford this house, because she has one client.
Right. And a boyfriend who's not interested anymore.
When she's not calling in anonymous tips to the police, she has one client.
Right. But that's a nice joint if you can get it. It went up on the market for the first time ever last year for $25 million. So if you got a spare 25 mil, let's go in on it together.
If you have a robust psychic business.
Yeah, this place is for you. And so while they're milling about illegally in Tess's home, Logan hears Channing over Tess's answering machine that he's going to be at a church across from Olivera Street, which is where I went for field trips every other year when I was in grade school. Great place. And Tess arrives back to the house like, you can't be here. You shouldn't be here. And
you're basically breaking several laws by being here.
And he's like, oh, I don't know. I think a serial killer being on your answering machine is guilty enough. Of course, it's not fucking there because it's Mind Game City and Channing can do anything he wants. So they decide, all right, we're all going to go to Olivera Street. And so he forces Tess to stay in the car. He and Oliver start walking around. And then out of nowhere, a horse-drawn carriage starts racing at Michael T. Williamson. And like anyone, when you see a rampaging horse coming your direction, he stays ramrod still.
He's like, is that a horse-drawn carriage?
Is that coming at me? And then in a first for this show so far, I believe, we have a drive-by hoofing.
Yeah. I think this in 10 years, I don't think we've ever seen anybody get stomped by a horse.
Now, the times I've seen this movie, when I saw it in theaters, when I saw it on home video, and when I revisited it for this show, I was pretty convinced that the spirit of Channing was in the horse. But based on what happens afterwards, he's in the horse and buggy driver.
He's wearing a sombrero. I hope that if I get murdered, it's by somebody wearing a sombrero. I don't want to be killed by a drive-by hoofing, but murdered by a guy wearing a sombrero, now that's the kind of whimsy I am into. Yeah, one thing I appreciate about Channing is when he, body jumps, I guess, for lack of a better term, he does it with finesse.
He really does.
He picks a horse-drawn carriage operator. He picks a nun. He picks Carol Kane as a homeless woman.
Carol, almost the same. Yeah.
Yes.
So he takes off, and there's another long chase trying to get him both on the horse-drawn carriage and on foot. They end up on the top of a parking structure. And Logan's like, I've got you dead to rights. And then Channing's like, see you later, buddy boy. And he jumps off of this 10 to 12 story building. And the one notable thing about this stunt this was the highest distance anyone had used what was called the decelerator rig at this moment in time. This was a wire rig that allowed you to jump off a building, and it would decelerate you before you hit the ground. If you've watched The Fall Guy, the opening stunt that goes wrong is using a decelerator rig. Here, the rumor has it, according to Jeff Kober, was that the stunt person's girlfriend was at the bottom with the stunt team with a blanket. And he asked one of the stunt team members, why? I've never seen her before. Why is she here and why does she have a blanket? It's like 85 degrees. And they said, oh, if the decelerator doesn't work and he hits pavement, that's the blanket she's going to use to cover his body.
I mean, I guess that's thinking ahead.
It is. It really is thinking ahead. But it worked. It worked like a charm, and they were even able to unhook it with a bit of editing sleight of hand and have him run away, which kind of makes it a miracle. Logan, of course, finally gets to the bottom and runs into two guys smoking a J who didn't see shit. By the way, one of them is Scott Lawrence. He's another that guy. He's in Doppelganger. He's in Time Cop. He's in a million TV shows. This was his first movie. Meanwhile, Detective Mazza, who is notable for his own version of, I think he's going for Kurt Russell hair in this, but it comes off like he took Kurt Russell's spare hair and put it on his head.
I mean, God knows Kurt Russell has a lot of hair to spare.
But Detective Maz's job while all this is happening is actually to tail Tess the following day, which she immediately clocks because she is a psychic. But who else clocks this is Channing. And we get a call that Mazza is slashed and crucified under the bridge downtown. That's where they drew some blood. And yes, that is the same LA River location used in Grease and Blue Thunder, among many. Logan then decides to get right with God and decides to talk to a priest who turns out to be Channing. Does a little Michael Jackson crucifixion pose on top of a marble table and then leaps 20 fucking feet in the air and out a stained glass window. And it is at this point that I began to wonder, is he just Nightcrawler? What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, I mean, if coming back from the dead gives me these kinds of powers, then yeah, bring me back from the dead.
It sounds great. And all I have to do is murder 15 people and carve a pentagram into their tum-tums. Seems like an easy enough job to get.
I mean, I could come up with a list.
So after this, Logan gives chase on fucking foot again. His footwear of choice, gator or snake boots. I couldn't decide if they were gator or snake skin boots, but they're one of the two, and they're not meant for chasing. At a certain point, switch to Nikes, my friend. Logan tracks down Channing to a transient hotel. And then Tess magically comes up the stairs at one point and goes, "Look out!" And then Channing emerges from a door and sinks an axe into his face. Wait a second. That was a premonition, actually. So Tess decides to stop doing what she's doing, which is like shopping at Bergdorf's or whatever the fuck. And she taxis it over to that same transient hotel. Warns Logan sooner this time so they can avoid the axe. But in the ensuing axe fight, Channing cuts off a overhead fan, and as Gina mentioned earlier, then uses that overhead fan as some sort of shield against bullets.
And again, evidently he also can generate electricity.
Yes,
because he rips this fan out of the ceiling and it's still operating.
Yes. So Logan and Tess do what anyone would do: go to the last room on the left, close the door behind them, and then shove the sleeping person's bed up against the door and go out the fire escape.
They're like, he'll be fine.
He's not after you. You're fine. The worst thing is you're going to have to move rooms.
I was going to say, you could have woken him up, maybe.
He's like, really
hey,
asleep.
you might want to get out of the way.
Yeah. But, Channing goes through that door like a regular Jason Voorhees. And by the time Logan and Tess have wound their way down that fire escape and commandeered a car from some poor guy, Channing does what any of us would do and just leap out of that fucking hotel right onto the hood of that car, which is straight out of Body Parts.
Yep.
But of course, Body Parts came later. So Body Parts is straight out of the first Power. I don't know, man. At least somebody died in Body Parts. This is nuts. But it does lead to a long alley driving sequence in which they're trying to knock Channing, or at least his stunt person, off the top of the car. And then they finally accomplish it with what I thought was a delightful, obvious dummy stunt.
Yeah.
You've seen better? Ms. Obvious Dummy?
I can think of a few, but it's all right.
All right. Listen, I'm not saying it's doing it great, but when I see obvious dummy, that's getting put down on the notes. So
yes, of course.
This is where first of all, Logan hands this dude a car whose vehicle they have just card. He hands him a card for his vehicle that he's just absolutely wrecked and said, "Call this guy. He'll take care of everything." Which is a lovely joke that has no place in this movie. And then we get the first Power rundown from Tess in front of the world's most confused street food vendor. Who, of course, pipes up with it when Logan says she just got out of a mental institution. And he's like, maybe she should go back. And somewhere in MacArthur Park, someone was ba-dum-pum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're weird. Like, I wouldn't call them tonal shifts, but they don't last very long. Mm-hmm. But they're a couple like gag lines, and it's just like, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's trying to lighten things up, but it's never super heavy. But it is just kind of all over the place. I think there's a tonal issue with the film overall. But according to Tess, Channing is now a spirit. So he can't harm people in his spirit form, besides mind games and making you see shit that isn't real. But once he can possess a physical body, he can murder people that way. Why he's able to fall from great fucking heights is not explained. That is not one of the powers.
No.
So Tess and Logan then go to visit Channing's mom, played by Juliana McCarthy, who we last talked about on this show.
I think she's supposed to be his grandmother, though.
Right. Well, no. She is the mom, and the grandfather is secretly his dad.
Well, yeah, but they pointed out they found the picture of the younger woman and said, right. "Oh, that's my daughter."
Oh, that's right. You're right. It is notable.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It literally does not. It does not matter. He's an incest baby.
It adds this to be gross, as if being gross is going to help things along. It does not. Right. I will only note that Juliana McCarthy basically plays the same role in The Frighteners. And that's right. Yes, she's a screaming, creepy old lady, and is in 2 more movies that involve serial killers and coming back from the dead. Striking Distance, which has the best tagline in the world. If they didn't want him to make waves, they shouldn't have put him in the water. And Bad Dreams, a Freddy Krueger ripoff that eventually we'll get to because we're simply going to run out of movies. So how we ended up here in the first Power.
I say we got to do, and listeners, if you want us to do this idea, please let me know, because I do go into it a little bit in my book. This is a classic bad psychiatrist movie. Oh yeah, it is. Bad Dreams is. I'm not going to give away the twist in it, but it is definitely a bad psychiatrist movie. Yes. And it turns out there's a lot of those.
Notable for also containing the actor who played Chainsaw in Summer School, a movie we've often threatened to cover on this show for the barest mention of horror lore inside of it.
I mean, honestly, Chainsaw and Dave are the patron saints of this show.
Absolutely true. Now, while we're at Channing's old home, we do get to check out a bedroom there, which is straight stealing from the Dead Zone, another movie we've recently encountered.
It's the classic, like, he's a grown man, but the room is for like a 5-year-old.
Yeah, the sheer amount of clowns on display is enough evidence to convict of any crime. Just name the crime, but how many clowns does he have in his bedroom? Too many. Straight to jail. This is where we get a dramatic reenactment in which Tess inhabits something that happened, the actual incest rape happening in previous time, and it is less than convincing.
Yeah, it's a little bit of mommy, don't, no, mommy, no. And she has like the high-pitched voice, and it's just like
choices. What is important news in the aftermath of this is that she goes running off over the hill, and we see that just beyond is the Silver Lake Reservoir, which is where Channing would take some of his victims to perform the satanic rituals that would eventually give him these various powers. Tess then says, well, who we need to contact here is the person who really knows what's going on with this power set. One, Sister Marguerite. And so Sister Marguerite is first enticed into, hey, tell us what you know. And she's like, fuck you. My name's Paul, and this is between y'all. But a little bit later, just on her own, decides, you know what? I do have to get involved. And I have the feeling that these scenes are out of order because it doesn't make any sense. But she breaks into one of the lead priest's office. And of course, that dude just happens to have a box that contains a knife wedged into a cross in a prop that says, does this one work? It's a little underwhelming. Anywho, she takes that knife and sits on it, because now we get a long, prolonged scene of Tess and Logan patrolling the downtown LA Arts District, or at least what would eventually become that. And they get a call of someone being seen at a processing plant. What does it process? Fuck if I know. We don't process shit in this town. But they get drawn into a long fight with Channing that eventually goes to the highest height of this processing plant, and Tess knocks him over the head with an iron bar, and he pushes through a railing and falls to his death on top of a pipe. But it turns out that Channing was one of Lou Diamond Phillips's superiors, Lieutenant Grimes,
who is inexplicably a complete asshole to everybody. It's never really explained why.
It isn't. And then they're like, he drank all the time, and Tess is like, that's how they get you, because if you're a drinker or you use a lot of drugs, you're just more open to his satanic spirit. And you're like, this seems like something you just made up.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just going to say, like, they're still kind of workshopping this, and the limits of his powers, which seem to be both unlimited and quite limited at the same time.
Yeah, it's a real variable dial that seems to go down whenever he needs to kill Lou Diamond Phillips, and way up when he needs to kill anyone else. So Logan and Tess eventually return to their apartment, and they start to kiss in what, I mean, I guess it has to happen. I mean, they're both very attractive people, but they have zero chemistry.
There is negative chemistry happening here.
And then he's like, oh, wait, I think like a phone rings or there's someone at the door, and he walks away. And then out of nowhere, this unhoused bag lady comes spiraling up in the window behind Tess.
She's like, hello.
Which I think is a good shot. Like I saw that, I'm like, that is good. I understand why that was in a trailer.
It's amusingly weird.
Yes. But it also makes zero sense. Why does gravity not apply to him anymore? It's one thing when you go, the third power is he can teleport, but teleportation does not involve you making other human beings fly on wires. That is not how teleportation works. That's not how anything works.
Yeah.
So they have a prolonged fight in which I believe Lou Diamond Phillips receives his second and third kick to the balls. They escape, get in a car. Lo and behold, they didn't check the back seat. Another ongoing theme here on Kill by Kill. Check the back fucking seat. Or maybe he teleported there. I don't know. Anyways, this is where we get another massive car stunt in which this car just loops in the air after hitting a tow truck. And it goes through, pirouettes through the air multiple times on the 4th Street Bridge outside of downtown LA. It makes no sense. They are driving away from downtown LA and the stunt happens towards downtown LA. I'm the only person who cares. Here's the other thing. The stunt driver who was performing this stunt ended up in the hospital. This was an anniversary stunt for them. They had flipped so many cars, and this was like the 50th time they had done it. And I guess the adrenaline of that got to them, and everyone on the stunt team was like, he's going too fast. He's going too fast. He's going too fast. Hit it 20 miles an hour over where he was supposed to hit. It looks great, but he ended up in a fucking coma for a week.
Well, yeah, and Lou Diamond Phillips' character should have ended up in a coma, but he just, gets out of this accident, shakes it off, and keeps on running.
He has a small head wound, but that's about it. So Channing somehow absconds with Tess. I guess this is more of the teleportation thing. But can you teleport with another body that's not? I don't know. Anyways, Logan finally recruits Sister Marguerite to get involved. And she's like, I've got just the tool for this job. And eventually, like, Gina, is this the worst holy weapon we've ever seen? Like the bazooka used in End of Days is kind of better.
Yeah, it's basically useless.
End of Days. That's another one. Oh my God, Gina, we have to stop talking about these movies. Can we become like a romantic comedy podcast for a while?
Do we though? Do we though?
Or do we just double down and next week is Destroyer with Lyle Alzado? Anyways, we return to the Silver Lake Reservoir where Tess has been strapped down inside the pentagram. Earlier, another character actor has told us that if you turn this wheel, a deluge of water is going to happen. So keep that in mind because we're only minutes from it happening. Tess is woken up. Logan takes another shot to the balls. At this point, I'm not sure I would be able to operate. I would just be a blood pissing machine. But okay, I'm not in a movie. And so it almost looks like Logan has Channing up against the ropes, but Channing body jumps into Sister Marguerite, and they end up burning the unhoused woman, thinking, we got him. Not so much. He's in Sister Marguerite. And then Tessa's like, fuck y'all. Let's open up the floodgates. And they both get washed down what is like the world's longest sort of water slide with, corrugated metal perched up against it.
It's just basically a tetanus shot waiting to happen.
Yeah. They end up on this precarious ledge over an open pit of boiling acid.
Of course. Where can I go see the tub of the pit of boiling acid in Los Angeles, Patrick?
Well, I will take you to that. You take me to the toxic waste sewers of New York City that are unleashed at midnight,
and the alleys full of bales of hay. You've got a deal.
Fully furnished alleyways. Yes.
I'll make sure to bring any bodies I might need to get rid of.
Somehow in the concurrent fist fight, Logan manages to shove a lighter into Channing's eye and then flip him karate style over the top and into the pit of boiling acid, which he then tosses that lighter into. And everything explodes. And when I say this is an explosion, the E and the X are capitalized here. But of course, somehow, Logan and Tess are not burned to a crisp in this massive explosion. They saunter down to the bottom, and lo and behold, who hops out of the fucking pit but Channing, who is slightly singed.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit. And then all of a sudden he starts to look like the killer character from Brain Scan. Only because his hairline has been reduced and he's got this giant burn across his face. I think this is a better movie than Brain Scan. A movie I do not remember, but remember every other line from the We Hate Movies episode about it.
Oh yeah, one of their best.
So more fighting, not nearly enough stabbing, and then Logan finally gets the upper hand. He, tucks and rolls, finds the crucifix knife, manages to start to get the upper hand on Channing, and then two fucking random ass flatfoots from the LAPD run in. They're like, "Don't stab that nun." And he's like, "Oh, fuck, I'm gonna get shot." Stabs the nun. They shoot Logan, and then whole bunch of light shoots out from the body, and it's revealed to be a slightly singed Channing. So how they're going to write that up, I'm not entirely sure. But it's the LAPD, so no one's going up on charges. That's for damn sure. So everyone's aware the entire third act inside the water power station was a reshoot that they did over the course of 22 hours. Also a reshoot when Tess is there when Logan wakes up and tries to strangle her. You can tell because her hair's completely different texture.
And then the end.
And then the end as fast as they possibly can. Please don't sue us. And they just run. Any final thoughts on 1990s First Power?
You know what? I can't say it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it is. It has some stylish moments.
It's
like I said. I mean, I remember some of the key shots enough that I thought I had seen this movie in its entirety before.
Yeah.
And I think that Jeff Kober he's trying really hard to be scary.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is everybody else is not quite trying enough.
Yeah.
And so it feels a little off balance.
Yeah.
But, I think it feels very of its time, where we're still coming out of the whole, first wave of Satanic Panic. Of course, now we're in another wave of Satanic Panic, only it's less funny. So it feels very 1990 to me in both good ways and bad. But, if you remember this movie, if you are an old, and you remember seeing this, the incessant trailers for this, before renting, a horror movie, watch it. It's a pretty fast paced hour and a half.
Yeah.
And it's got some decent shots in it.
Yeah. I would put it personally in the it's fine. I think there's enough style to it. I think the practical stunts are fantastic. I think it's shot well. I sadly am going to err on the side of one of our nemesis here of the show, Quentin Tarantino, and his rant about horror movies need rules. I don't always agree with this, and I certainly don't agree with his example of a horror movie that actually employs rules, A Nightmare on Elm Street, because it abandons them. But that being said, this movie needs more rules. It just is. Yeah. His powers are variable. They're whatever they need them to be, and then they suddenly disappear, and they're never quite as interesting.
Yeah, they really do. They really are making it up as they go along.
Yeah. Performances are fine. Lou Diamond Phillips is very, very attractive. Melanie Griffith's half sister-in-law, whatever, is cute as a button. Jeff Kober is a hell of a face, full of that guys, but ultimately, a bit of a whiff. I think at the end of this run of these movies, we're going to have to come up with an ultimate ranking for.
Yes.
Maybe this is what we pitch to screen drafts.
Yeah, this would be solidly in the middle.
Yeah. I agree with you. But that being said, the thing that's never in the middle, it's always at the end, is Choose Your Own Deathventure, where we decide of the deaths in this film, if you were forced to die in one of those ways, which one would it be and why? We have slash throat, pentagram carved into your belly times 16. Then we have executed in the gas chamber. A drive-by hoofing, crucified impossibly under a bridge, impaled on a pipe after a long fall, fall into an acid pit, explode for a while, stabbed by holy knife, light explosion. What say you, Gina?
Oh, I mean, obviously, I got to go for the drive-by hoofing.
Yeah.
Because I want people to have to explain to other people how I died.
I mean, they'd have to put a pictogram on your tombstone like you were assembling IKEA furniture.
Exactly. Like, oh, she was so young. How did she die? Well, she got run over by a horse and carriage operated by a man wearing a sombrero. That makes sense. Now I think about it.
Like, by surprise? Kinda. But not really.
She kind of just stood there and let it happen.
Like, no one believed it would happen, and no one kind of believes it did happen. So we're all in that space. Yeah, it's drive-by hoofing. Like, it's a terrible death, but you have that story, and that's going really far. So
exactly.
Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about pop culture and current events probably more than I should be for my own peace of mind at my newsletter, ginawatchesthings.ghost.io. If you want to read fiction from me, I just recently got another short story published at deathbed.ghost.io. You can find it there. I am taking a break for the most part from Blue Sky and Threads, but you can find me posting on Instagram.
Do it today, people. Check it out. We're on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. We have the Discord server where you can talk back to us. We have our t-shirt shop at dashery.com. The link is in the show notes here. You should go there and buy a cool t-shirt. Then, of course, you can support us over on Patreon, which is how you can help support the show financially, to help us with research materials and keep this show free for everybody else. And, you can rate and review us on iTunes. You can follow us on Spotify and talk back to us there, or, subscribe to us on YouTube. You don't have to listen, but it's a great place to talk back to us and help us be seen and heard by more people. That just about does it, but don't worry, folks. The body count will continue for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.